US 158. Yeah. Today we're going to be talking about US Highway 158. It is a 350-mile North Carolina only US highway. It is one of 3 highways to enter or go through the Outer Banks region, and it starts at US 64 and ends at US 64. It also never intersects its parent route US 58, but has direct connections to it via other US highways and state highways and interstates. So let's get started. US 158 begins in Mocksville, North Carolina at an intersection with US 64 and US 601, and ends at Nags Head, which is one of the many towns in the Outer Banks region. Also at an intersection with US 64 and North Carolina Highway 12. So we're going to be talking about eastbound US 158. So US 158 begins here at an intersection with US 601 and US 64. And as you're here in Mocksville, as you're going straight, you're going to be on US 158. So US 158 parallels Interstate 40 for like 20 or so miles before entering into the Winston Salem metro area. And this is right before you enter into the Winston Salem metro area. You can actually see US 40 across the river. So once we get into the Winston Salem metro area, we meet Interstate 40, which is signed east for Greensboro, which is obviously correct because Greensboro is a major city in North Carolina, but westbound it's signed for Statesville, which is not a good choice. It should be Asheville. And then we also need another major highway in the Winston-Salem metro area, and it's North Carolina Highway 67, which is a shortcut to get to US 421 North. And then US 158 meets US 421, and those two highways are going to be concurrent for a while in the Winston-Salem area. So once US 158 joins 421, immediately after we meet US Highway 52, which is a somewhat of an odd road itself, and it's signed north for Mount Airy and the Winston-Salem Airport, and south for Lexington. It's Lexington, North Carolina, not Lexington, Kentucky, because Lexington, Kentucky is actually north of here, not south. So, after meeting US 52, US 158 leaves, and it's signed east for Walkertown and Reidsville. I don't know where Walkertown is, but Reidsville is a major city in the central eastern North Carolina, because US 158 meets US 29 there. After parting from US 421, we meet North Carolina Highway 74, which is the hidden designation of Interstate 74 because Interstate 74 is not completed yet in the Winston-Salem area. So we just get the state highway designation of 74 when I left, and it doesn't have any control cities on there. And then a little ways after, we meet Interstate 73 and US Highway 220, and 73 has control city for north for Martinsville and south for Greensboro, and US 158 continued east for Reidsville. So we enter into the town of Reidsville, and US 158 is going to be concurrent with North Carolina Highway 87 and US 29 Business. US 29 Business leaves the two highways, and a little bit later, US 158 joins US 29, and it has the control city for Danville, which is for US 29 North and not for 158 East. Though US 158 used to take a different path in Reidsville, but in like 2019 or so, AASHTO decided to approve US 158 to join the US 29, so instead of going through Reidsville, US 158 bypasses the town of Reidsville with US 29. So a little brief after US 158 leaves US 29 at an intersection with North Carolina Highway 14 as the control city of Eden and Yanceyville. So after leaving US 29, US 158 enters the town of Yanceyville, and it has some concurrency with North Carolina Highway 86. those two highways are concurrent with each other for going through Yanceyville. And after traveling through Yanceyville, US 158 branches off from North Carolina Highway 86 and has the control city of Roxboro. And then we have a mileage sign, which Roxboro is 18 miles away, and Henderson is 55. Here in the town of Roxboro, we meet US 501 and North Carolina Highway 57, and US 158 is in concurrent with South 501. We're going through the town of Roxboro, US 158 leaves from 501 and 57 to go east. And then we have another mileage sign right after, which is signed for Oxford 25 and Henderson 37 miles. This is right into Oxford, and we meet with US 15. And as you can see, that if you go straight on US 158, you're going to be running into Interstate 85. Also, if you turn right onto US 15 south, here you'll be also taken to Interstate 85. So no matter which, if you're going east or south, you're going to be hitting Interstate 85 no matter what. And then after that, we meet Interstate 85 here in Henderson, but it has the control cities of Henderson and Durham. I agree with Durham, but I don't know why Henderson. That should be Petersburg or Richmond instead of Henderson, because you're already within the town of Henderson. And after that meeting with Interstate 85, we're going to be actually merging into Interstate 85 North and be concurrent with Interstate 85 for 2 miles. As you can see here, we're merging into Interstate 85. And then now we're on Interstate 85, and at exit 215, US 158 leaves, and it has no control city, which I think here should be Roanoke Rapids. And then after leaving Interstate 85, US 1 joins the party, and they're concurrent for a while. And then here in the town of Norlina, we meet US 401, and US 1 joins US 401, and we're going to be following US 401 south. Also, I took this picture straight from my US 401 video, and if you'd like to see that, it'll be in the top right corner. Here. So after going through the town of Norlina, US 158 leaves 401 to continue eastward on its journey. And then we have a mileage sign, which is signed for Macon, Littleton, and Lake Gaston. So after going through Littleton and Macon, we finally enter into the city of Roanoke Rapids. And I'd say once you probably pass the stoplight here, you're going to be in Roanoke Rapids. I tried finding a city limit sign, but I couldn't remember, and I couldn't find one. So I just considered this like you're in the heart of Roanoke Rapids. So before you meet Interstate 85, you're going to be meeting the cookout, which I explained in the Control City Freaks video of Interstate 95. And if you ever come to North Carolina, you should come to a cookout. They have the best shakes. Literally, there are 40 different flavors of them, and the shakes are so thick that Cookout is known for their shakes, but their food is alright. And then I also talk about the Cracker Barrel that's off of this road, which is right here, right next to the interstate. And look at that, we meet the big famous Interstate 95, which has the control cities of north for Emporia and Richmond, and south for Rocky Mount. Which I do agree with those. Well, I'm so-so on Rocky Mount, but the Emporia and Richmond is definitely the top notch. Because Emporia should be like a secondary, and Richmond should be a control city after basically the junction with Interstate 40. And if you'd like to see Control City Freaks Interstate 95 videos, it's in the top right corner. I made a playlist so you can watch all of them at once. And then after meeting Interstate 95 and going through the rest of Roanoke Rapids, we meet US 301 here in the town of Weldon, North Carolina. These two highways are concurrent for a bit, and then US 158 leaves US 301. Let's go east. And then right after leaving US 301, we have a brown mileage sign, which is signed for Jackson 9 and Murfreesboro 29. So after going through the town of Jackson, now we have another mileage sign of Conway 12 and Murfreesboro 19. Here in the town of Murfreesboro, we meet US 258, which is another child route of US 58, and it takes you to US 58 in Virginia. But these two highways are being concurrent through the south side of Murfreesboro. And after going through what basically is like town limits of Murfreesboro, US 258 leaves, US 158 join North Carolina Highway 11. US 158 leaving US 258, US 158 joins US Highway 13, which has no control cities. And then after being concurrent for a brief moment, US 158 leaves US 13 to head east towards Elizabeth City. And then we have another mileage sign, which is Elizabeth City 42 and Nags Head, which is a town in the Outer Banks region for 98. Here, outside of Elizabeth City, we meet US Highway 17, and we're going to be concurrent with US 17. And then within the city of Elizabeth City, US 158 leaves to head east into the Outer Banks region. And then on its way to the Outer Banks region, we meet North Carolina Highway 168. Which after meeting North Carolina Highway 168, we have the mileage sign for 3 towns in the Outer Banks region, which is Kitty Hawk, Kill Devil Hills, and Nags Head. And then this is the Wright Memorial Bridge, the bridge I entered to get into the Outer Banks. And then right after we exit off that bridge, we meet the famous North Carolina Highway 12, which has actually control cities for itself. And US 158 is still signed for the 3 Outer Banks towns, which is Kitty Hawk, Kill Devil Hills, and Nags Head, and Manteo. And then here's the Wright Brothers Memorial Museum here in the Outer Banks. And then US 158 travels through like a whole bunch of tourist places in Nags Head. And then we finally end at an intersection with US 64, North Carolina Highway 12. So we're now begun talking about westbound US 158. US 158 begins here at the same intersection with US 64 and North Carolina Highway 12. Fun fact, this is the eastern terminus of US 64, but US 12 continues north from here, and south. Because North Carolina Highway 12 is kind of like the shore highway of North Carolina. And then here's the Wright Brothers Museum again. And then now we're leaving the Outer Banks area, and we have control cities for Elizabeth City, and here's the same bridge that we encountered eastbound, going back into the mainland North Carolina. And then once we hit mainland North Carolina, we're meeting North Carolina Highway 168, which is signed north for Norfolk. And then we meet US 17 here in Elizabeth City, and we're going to be concurrent with 17 North. And now we're splitting from US 17 outside of Elizabeth City. Now we're going to be joining North Carolina Highway 13 and heading south on Route 13. And then US 158 splits from North Carolina on US Highway 13 and is signed west for Murfreesboro and Warrenton. So we meet US 258 again in Murfreesboro, and those two highways are current for a few miles. And then US 258 leaves to go south, while US 158 stays straight. And then after that, we have our first mileage sign. Conway is 9 miles away, and Roanoke Rapids is 38. Here in the town of Weldon, we meet US 301. As it's more of a Y intersection, the way to get to US 301 North is by taking it at like this side street here. And US 158 is splitting from 301 here in the outskirts of Roanoke Rapids. We meet Interstate 95 again, which has the control cities again for Emporia, Richmond, and Rocky Mount. And then outside of Roanoke Rapids, we have a mileage sign for Littleton and Warrenton. And then outside of Littleton, we have another mileage sign for Warrenton and Norlina. Here in Warrenton, we meet US 401, and we're going to be current with US 401 for a brief time. And then this picture also comes from my US 401 video, and we're going to be taking US 1 South instead of 401 North this time, to Interstate 85. So before we merge into Interstate 85 South, US 1 leaves, and US 158 can continue straight to Interstate 85. Here we merge into Interstate 85 South at mile 215, and just like last time, we're going to be concurrent with Interstate 85 for 2 miles. In fact, this time, US 158 does get a controlled street. It says US 158 West to Downey Drive. So I think that should be Oxford and Henderson. And then we meet Interstate 85 again, which this time doesn't have any control cities. But here is the control city on Interstate 85, which does correctly have Oxford and Roxboro. Here in Oxford, we meet US 15. And then in Roxboro, we meet US 501, and we're going to be current with 501 North this time. So we leave US 501 here in Roxboro, and we head west. And outside of Roxboro, we meet Yanceyville, which is set, and we have a mileage sign for Yanceyville 7 and Winston Salem 72. Here in Yanceyville, we meet North Carolina Highway 86, and we're going to be concurrent with 86 for a brief moment. And then we leave North Carolina Highway 86 here in Yanceyville, and US 158 continues west towards Winston-Salem. In fact, here is a mileage sign on our way to Reidsville, and we have a mileage sign for Reidsville 21 and Winston-Salem 63. Here in Reidsville, we meet US Highway 29, which has has control cities going eastbound on US 158, but doesn't have for westbound. We're going to be joining US 29 south. And then US 158 leaves from US 29 and has the control cities of Reidsville and Burlington. I wonder why Burlington? That should be Winston-Salem. So, after being concurrent with North Carolina Highway 87, US 158 leaves North Carolina Highway 87 and heads west towards Winston-Salem. And then after leaving Reidsville, we have a mileage sign for Stokesdale 21 and Winston-Salem 40. In fact, US 158 meets Interstate 73 in Stokesdale. Here we meet US Interstate 73 again, and US 158 heads west towards Winston-Salem. And then outside of Winston-Salem, we meet the hidden designation of Interstate 74, and it has no control cities again, because again, the highway's not complete. And then here we're merging into US 421, and then we meet US Highway 32 again. This time it's just signed for Mount Airy and Lexington. And here's the exit for Winston-Salem State University. And then US 158 leaves after meeting US 52. And then after leaving US 421, we meet US Interstate 40, which has control cities going south, but it's signed for 40 east instead of 40 west. And then we're meet that same river again, and we're going to see Interstate 40 again, and we're going to be concurrent, or no, we're going to be like right next to Interstate 40 for the rest of the trip. And then we have a mileage sign, which is Mocksville, 11 miles away. And then here we are back at that same intersection where we started the video. With that, we're at US 158 and on our way to the TheDerpHog's the way it should be. The TheDerpHog's the way it should be for US 158 eastbound is, I'd say, Winston-Salem going east, because Winston-Salem is a major city in North Carolina. And then Reidsville for US 29, the major junction with US 29. Because US 29 takes you north to other places, including Washington, D.C., and meets US 58 in Danville. And then Roxboro for, again, US 501, because US 501 also meets US 58. And then Oxford and Henderson, I'd dual sign those because you're going to meet US 15. And literally right after that, you're going to meet Interstate 85 in Henderson. So I would just dual sign those two towns. And then right after leaving Interstate 85, I'd do directly Roanoke Rapids, because you're going to meet Interstate 95. And then Murfreesboro after Roanoke Rapids because of US 258. And then Elizabeth City, because Elizabeth City is a major eastern North Carolina city. And then after Elizabeth City, I'd do the Outer Banks region. For westbound, we have Elizabeth City for US 17. And then again, Roanoke Rapids for Interstate 95. And then Henderson and Oxford for US 15 and 85. Roxboro for 501. And then Reidsville for US 29. And then Winston-Salem for Interstate 40 and 421. And then after Winston-Salem, I'm gonna jump the gun and like have Mocksville and Charlotte dual sign. The reason I chose Charlotte is because probably people are gonna be staying on 601, because 601 South continues after once 158 ends, and US 601 continues south toward Charlotte, and it intersects 85. And I bet most people will be going south that way instead of going back east or west on 64. Because if you want to go like west into North Carolina, you would probably take an Interstate 40 back in Winston-Salem. So there's no reason why to sign like a city west. So I'd do Charlotte. And then just Charlotte after entering Mocksville. With that, we end our episode of US 158. I hope you guys enjoyed US 158. I'm going to be working on other highways that people suggest. Next week, it's going to be Scenic US Highway 40. And then after that, it's going to be the Blue Ridge Parkway. So if you'd like to suggest any highways, please comment down below. And thank y'all for watching, and I'll see y'all in the next video.